Yeah, sorry about that. I was just testing YouTube out, making sure it was working okay.
Is it gonna work?
We'll find out soon. If it don't work, if it interferes with the show, I'll turn it off. Alright, so we're live on YouTube now. Alright, so we're fixing to go live on Darknite Radio. I'll do the introduction and then I'll introduce y'all as well and bring y'all on. Give me just a sec. Y'all will be on there, but you'll know. Give me just a second.
Sounds good.
In 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode live here on this lovely, humid Saturday evening here in Arkansas as we welcome y'all back to yet another episode live here on Darknite Radio. And of course, I do have co-host Miss Lauren Scamardo here with us.
Hey, guys.
And of course, Mr. Justin McGuire.
What's up, everybody?
And we do have Sherika joining us in this evening as well.
Hey guys.
And so tonight we welcome Marie and Jay Yates to the show here on Darknite Radio for the first time. We'll just be discussing some of the interesting things they've come across over the years and getting to know them a little bit better. And hopefully each and every one of y'all will enjoy the show. Y'all usually do. We like to laugh and have a good time and talk about a lot of interesting things. We try to keep it interesting anyways for the most part. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and welcome Marie and Jay to the show. If y'all would, y'all feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of what y'all do.
Yeah, hello, Jay Yates here. A little bit about myself. I grew up haunted. Never, not really knowing too much about, the field. So I didn't have too many outlets to really understand what was going on. I started doing some amateur investigating in the late 1990s, and met my wife in about 2002. Experienced her own haunting. Shortly after, got married, continued being haunted. Obviously started investigating, created our own team, the Cops Crew, at thecopscrew.com. You can find all that information. But Marie, your story is kind of a little bit different. You weren't really haunted.
Growing up, I actually had a very peaceful life. Didn't have any kind of haunting. Even know anything about ghosts. The only ghost I knew about was Casper, the friendly ghost. So I didn't know about the darkness until I met my husband.
I mean, us paranormal investigators kind of have an effect on people in that aspect. You start hanging around us, and then you're like, well, this seems interesting, so let's go try it out. Let's find out what it's like.
Exactly. It's definitely not for everybody. It's definitely a field that I feel kind of chose me rather than me really choosing it. And I feel like a lot of people are in the kind of same position in the field. We definitely never intended for the TV and, the appearances at events and any of that stuff. It's been a great blessing. But it just never was the plan. And we just kind of fell into our lap. And from there, things just started to happen, and more TV kept calling, and we kept doing more and more of it. And now we're on our second season of Haunted Case Files. We just shot for 6 new episodes for season 2 of Haunted Case Files that will air this fall. And it sounds like we already got greenlit for season 3, and they want almost double the episodes for that season. So it's looking pretty good. So it's been great. We've had a really good time and a really good go at it. I know both Marie and I, we love to go out and to be able to speak to people about our experiences and educate any way that we can, and just kind of learn from everybody too, whether they're an amateur or someone who's been in the field for 30 years. There's a lot to learn from all of us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's what it's about. We learn and grow as we go along. That's what we do. I mean, we've said this on many of our episodes along with our guests. None of us are experts in the field. We're all very experienced and everything. we're all very experienced and everything, but none of us know everything about this line of work that we're in. We try to
Yeah.
learn and grow as we go along, but I honestly, and I'm going to agree with you 100%, and I know Justin will as well, Jay, and that aspect, I didn't choose this field, it chose me. Um, kind of like I said, if I ever decided that there was a point where I wanted to walk away from it, I honestly don't think I could because they wouldn't leave me alone.
That's the same thing for us. We were kind of dubbed like haunted survivors several years ago just because we kind of live haunted on a regular basis. Everyone always asks us when we go out to these events and Comic-Cons and stuff like that, they say, well, where's the most haunted place you've ever experienced anything? And quite honestly, I mean, it's their own home. I mean, we have so much activity going on here. We collect items from locations. We have stuff here from places.
I don't collect anything haunted. That's all you.
She's not a huge fan. She's not a huge fan, maybe, of it. But we
no, it's locked in a room, and it needs to stay in that room.
It's definitely. She doesn't realize it, but there's haunted items all around the house. But she thinks they're all in one room.
I collect antiques. I collect haunted.
I could walk into the next room and show you a few. But you know, it's definitely you know, we really strive, like when we go out and investigate. For us now these days, it's not so much the investigation that we enjoy when dealing with residential cases. It's more the education and the counseling of the people that we're working with. I mean, for example, our case organizer, Jen, she is a previous client, and it's like, you know, like we become friends with these people. We're there for them. It's never a goodbye. It's always hello. And no matter how much television we've done and how many exposure we've had with what we're doing, we've always stayed true to that, and we want to continue to do that because we think it's important. TV won't always be there, the limelight won't always be there, but our presence in the field is forever there. And it's been great because we've really made some amazing relationships and friendships with people over the years that otherwise we would have never even met these people. So.
No, that's true. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of people think, oh, you're going to come in and do a ghost hunt in our house, show us evidence, and then get rid of the spirit. A lot of times in this, you know, doing that, you can't get rid of it. So a lot of times what we try to do is actually just show, you know, teach them and help them guide, you know, you can live with the dead, you know. Yeah. I mean, everybody does it. Yeah, I mean, you just have to learn how to do it, and that's how we try to help a lot of people. There are families that do want it completely out of their house. Jay and I really don't do that on our own anymore, ourselves. We actually will probably bring other teams in, outsource, you know, to other teams and stuff. But most of the time we just counsel because, I mean, we try to teach them, you know, like, hey, they're here. They could have been here way longer before you even walked through, you know, came alive yourself. So, you know, learn how to live with it a little bit. So, I mean, some of these don't want to go nowhere, and I think it's not fair trying to push them all away.
And like for what I always tell people when we're doing our lectures and stuff is that, you know, you go into a client's house, you've got called in to do an investigation of a location. Well, you go in there to investigate. So let's say you do capture the apparition on a photograph or maybe a video or some audio piece that kind of solidifies that, yeah, they have something going on, and you present that evidence to the client and you're like, hey, here you go, I got it. And then they're going to always say, okay, that's cool, but now what? And Marie and I are kind of that now what? And that really is us really talking with them. And generally after a conversation or two with us, people tend to calm down. Marie actually had a very interesting conversation with Grant Wilson when we were out at Salem Con. And a great guy, by the way. I mean, amazing.
Oh, man, cool.
Wasn't expecting for him to be that on point, honestly. But
I've always loved him on tap, to be honest.
No,
you
have. But I can't. You know.
Mean, he was just. I mean, the most true person I actually got to speak to in a while. And it was an amazing conversation.
He literally, you know, we were talking about like haunted locations, and Grant told us that sometimes back in the day when he would investigate residential locations, that he would actually come to their house and invite them to go to the mall for like an hour, get out, socialize, get out of the house, laugh a little bit, and then return to the house and see if the house felt the same way. And he said oftentimes that there was a difference, and it was kind of right up our alley because a lot of times, Marie and I, out of all the research and the data that we've collected over the years and doing these investigations, is that a lot of these things are psychologically induced or self-generated. Our house is our temple, in my opinion, and in that temple, there's windows. And when we leave windows open to sin or whatever you want to call it, and you're arguing, there's drug addiction, and we see it in the field where you go in houses and there's things that you just wish you wouldn't have seen, and you have all these things going on, these elements. At least the house is susceptible to the other side, and I think with that you get a lot of spirit energy. So we try to educate people to really reduce the stress level, reduce the busy energy inside the home. And then thus that helps to lower the activity. And we've had a lot of success with that, either lowering or completely eliminating hauntings by, just mentally preparing yourself to come into your home and how you handle situations. And we recommend people fighting outside the home and arguments rather than inside the home, and just do different things if the house is super active. And generally it calms down. I know I've seen it in my own life with my kids and my family. I had an incident one time where I had yelled at one of my sons to help clean up his room. He wouldn't clean up his room. I went into his room to say, hey, why have you not started cleaning up your room? And he had a large coin on top of an old tube TV, and it was probably 3 inches by 3 inches large. It lifted up off the TV, shot across the room right towards my feet. And there was so much energy in that room, with me being frustrated that he hadn't cleaned up his room, him being frustrated because I was telling him to clean up his room. It really started shedding light on that energy aspect of what we do. And it's really helped.
Well, that's a good thing, and and a lot of times, I mean, like you said, we try to educate the private residents and things on how to live with them. Believe it or not, I honestly believe that probably at least 75% of the people out here live with hauntings on a day-to-day basis and don't even realize it.
Right.
Because it's not, it's a lot of times they won't make themselves known. Well, then there's other cases, which I know y'all dealt with them as well as ourselves. There's other cases where they make themselves very known. They want to be known, and they want to cause chaos among the family members that live in the home and things of that nature as well. So basically we go in there as well to try to help them cope with it and deal with them. And but we still do cleansings and things. We still try to get rid of them if the client requests. Like there is one private residential case that we done in general. Like she'll collect items from people that have passed away that she knows, and she'll have them all in her house, and she's wondering why, and she wants us to come out there, and she's wondering why they won't go away.
Yeah.
I'm all like, well, you got all these haunted objects in there. They're not gonna go.
She had a lot too. I mean, a lot of stuff. That's
yeah,
crazy.
That will definitely do it.
I'm like,
Yeah.
you're collecting things from several people,
Yeah.
not just one or two that passed away, and they reside in the home at all times. So we ain't gonna be able to make that. We ain't gonna be able to make that go away with all this collateral and whatnot that you have there, and that aspect. So how many, I know y'all been in the field and y'all been around a little bit. How many different televised shows have you worked with, or other paranormal shows, I should say?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? You cut out.
I said, how many other paranormal televised shows have y'all worked with in the field so far?
Oh, that's a good question. We're on Ghost Adventures. We did Goldfield, Arizona. We were on Ghost Adventures for Ghost Adventure Aftershocks, which was more of a personal type haunting we had going on in our home associated with another haunting. And then we did Ghost Adventures for some stuff we did out in Prescott for Whiskey Row. We've been on Paranormal Witness, which encompassed 2.5 years of me working for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office in a housing unit I worked in that was extremely haunted, and it affected my life at home. Yes. We did My Ghost Stories back in the day. We did a show called Unprotected. which is about that was like what, last year we did that one.
Yeah.
We just shot for another show, Scariest Night of Our Lives. There's a few
Wow.
more in there somewhere. Done a lot of like Fox News, local stuff, ABC, NBC, CBS.
That's
Did a
pretty
cool one during October for Fox News in California on some like haunted roadway. It was a lot of fun, but we've done a lot. I mean, it's I don't even know if that's even it. Really, to be honest with you, Haunted Case Files is the one that we were focusing on a lot. We got another one lined up right now, but it's not like official.
Yeah. Yeah, so how was it? How was it working with the Ghost Adventures crew? I'm curious to know that.
Yeah, we definitely get that question a lot. The first time I met with Ghost Adventures, it was definitely it was a cool experience. I mean, I was sitting at home when I got the call from Jeff Blanger, and he was like, "Yeah, so Zach was looking on YouTube and he saw a video of you guys out in Goldfield. We'd like to have you on the show." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and this isn't me seeking this. And I was like, "This is a joke. Like, that's weird."
so cool.
You know? And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And then we went out there. We met with Zach. If you have to watch the show, I definitely made some comments on the air that I didn't expect to make it to the actual air itself. It was Zach. He's definitely very. He definitely pushes it with the questions on interviews to the point where, I sounded like an idiot kind of a little bit because he was asking like, it was a brothel. So he's like, what were you doing in the brothel? And I was like, we were asking questions. He's like, well, what kind of questions? Well, we're asking for like favors. And he's like, well, what kind of favors? And I was like, sexual favors. And then it just went on and on from there. So it was kind of funny. Now it's funny. Then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that on TV. But it is what it is, And the second time we worked with them was Aftershocks. It was more of a personal thing. There was a lot that wasn't left in the final cut that I think should have been in the final cut. There was definitely a lot of conversation between Zach and I that wasn't worthy for air. Where they just cut it because there just wasn't enough time. I mean, I can tell you that Aaron is an amazing dude. Definitely enjoy being around him. Jay is absolutely great. Zach, definitely a cool dude. It's just he's definitely focused. So I think a lot of times people take that as like he's a jerk off or something when they're out there in the field. Definitely very focused on the shows every time we've been out, but not a bad guy. I didn't have.
I have no problem with either. I don't have a problem with that. Zach's a sweetheart.
You liked Aaron too.
Oh, I think Aaron's funny as hell.
Aaron tried to steal my wife from me, I think, dude, on the first time we met. No, he's super cool. I mean, they're all really cool. The Ghost Adventure Aftershocks.
You forgot Billy. Billy was awesome.
Billy, yes. The Aftershocks that we shot, it was definitely like a crazy emotional experience. So it was just like there was a lot of emotion there.
I will tell you though, the very first time we ever filmed with them, we thought Nick was still part of the crew. So it was really weird. We were the first ones outside of them that knew that Nick wasn't part of it. We weren't allowed to say anything.
Yeah,
like we signed everything. We couldn't say nothing, and like
it was like the first episode that they filmed for the new season or something, or the second part of the season where Nick wasn't involved, and we came there and we were like, oh, so where's Nick? Because I was always a very big fan of Nick. Like, I mean, I just admired his work and how he handled himself. I just liked him, and I wanted to meet him. And he's like, yeah, well, since you're not with us, which you guys can't say anything. And we're like, oh, that's weird. But, so it was a good experience, though. I mean, I can't, it definitely, it was definitely a unique experience each time. And when we just filmed, like, I think a year or two ago with them, a year and a half ago maybe, in Whiskey Row, Zach, came right up to us, gave us a hug and, hi, how are you doing? Just a real friendly guy. I know he gets a huge rap in the community. I think people need to understand that he's a host of a television show. And when we watch television shows, I think people need to understand that they are television shows. I can tell you a million different discrepancies in every show that I've appeared on. For example, even the show I'm filming for, like Haunted Case Files, like, the information gets kind of twisted sometimes, on accident. But it said, Jay and Marie Yates, ghost hunters, formed Crossing Over Paranormal Society in 1999. We did not form Crossing Over Paranormal Society in 1999. I caught almost my first charge for trespassing in 1999 because I was an idiot, because I was 17 years old, and somebody said that this guy's backyard was haunted, and I decided that I would go investigate it. And in the process, I ended up getting in contact with the law, and I learned my lesson very quickly. But I didn't get charged and everything, and I was, a lot of tears later, me freaking out. It was the day before Thanksgiving, so I thought, like, oh my God, I'm not going to see my family for Thanksgiving, But yes, I don't recommend trespassing. I learned my lesson. You definitely can go to jail for that. Yeah, 1999, I was definitely out there doing something. I didn't know it was called investigating at the time, I don't think. It was just me always curious and poking around in places where I either thought were haunted or someone said that they were haunted. But I wasn't trying to gain evidence. It was
I
just
didn't even
more...
know you in 1999.
No, you didn't. That's what's even more funny about it. But, and then it's always funny, too. Like, I know on, Paranormal Witness, it's funny because it is showing me, walk down a corridor in, the jail, and, something happens, and, I'm saying something completely different than what's on the TV screen. And it's, it's comical to me, but, the
comical thing in, 2 or 3 different shows of Haunted Case Files shows Jay lifted me up and carrying me out of a situation. He would never pick my ass up. Never. He never would.
No, it's definitely, they do, and sometimes you get those shows where they're like, oh, why did you do that? There was a show I was on that showed that I burnt a Ouija board out of anger. I didn't burn a Ouija board out of anger. I would have never got angry at a client, but it was part of their process of the story making. I got hell for it. Everyone's like, oh my God, you burned a Ouija board. I didn't burn a freaking Ouija board.
I think a lot of people, that's what he's trying to say about Zach, is I think a lot of it is entertainment. Don't get me wrong. A lot of things that we don't agree with Zach. On a lot of different things. Heck, Jay got in a little disagreement with him when we were filming. But he actually accepts it because he knows everybody is different. So, yeah. It's just, people, I think, have to realize that Zach is very well known and they expect so much from him in a lot of ways. So it's he's actually, if really people listen to his real story and why he's into the paranormal, is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, and even with that, people will say, "Oh my God, he wasn't. That's not why." And
he was in film school and everything.
Yeah, whatever, dude. And people hear my stories, and I told people, we just had a lecture recently, and people were asking me, "What do you think the skeptics or believers?" Honestly, I'm not in this field for either one. I really don't care whether people believe anything I put on television, believe anything that I say at a lecture, believe any of my evidence. I don't care. Everyone thinks I'm fake. I'm not doing it for anybody. I'm doing it because I feel called to do it. I'm doing it because I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I do it for the clients that I serve. So other than that, I don't really care. Before it used to, I'd be like, oh man, the Facebook ninjas and stuff would pop on and be like, oh, that's bullshit, Did I say bullshit on your radio show?
Yeah. No,
okay.
But I already cussed a couple times.
We should have probably cleared that up before we got on the air, huh?
It's an explicit show. It's all good.
Yeah.
No, but
it is what it is.
Yeah, in that sense, though, to be honest, some of our fellow Beyond the Light Network folks might not necessarily agree with us on this aspect, but all of us here at Darknite Paranormal Society are fans of Ghost Adventures.
We're watching it right now.
It's actually on TV right now while we're doing the radio show. But
was it?
Honestly, the first I used to watch Ghost Adventures before we ever got started. Me and Justin have been investigating 5 years now in this field, and we was actually with another team. We didn't like the way things were going with them. So me and Justin started Darknite Paranormal Society, and we've been a team now for a little over a year now at this time. But like I said, I've had experiences on and off throughout my life. But I used to watch Zach, and even Nick, I started watching it as well as y'all when Nick was still on the show with him. I love Nick Groff. I hope to get him on the show one day as well. But no, in that aspect, no, I really, I mean, do I agree? I'm like y'all in that aspect. I don't agree with everything that Zach does, but there again, like y'all said, it's television. They got to keep the fans interested.
Yeah.
You got to keep the audience interested, or your show won't last. That's just how
Yeah, I mean, people don't. If people don't see something going on in the show, people are going to lose interest. I mean, you have to figure, like, some of these shows, people don't realize that they're coming out like a week in advance. They're setting up cameras. They're rolling live DVR for hours and hours and hours, like days on days sometimes. So some of the evidence that they're capturing, these are legit captures.
People would hate us ghost hunters, really. It's like us watching paint dry.
Yeah, and I mean, and when these shows are filming, they're coming out days in advance. I know every time I filmed with Ghost Adventures, they were out on location for a week, and they already had film going. They already had all their stuff going. As far as things, people have to realize, like real things do happen in investigations. I jump all the time, like, with stupid shit that doesn't make any sense, like, a mannequin, or I was just in Virginia City, and I turned the corner, and there was a mannequin in the Washoe House. And it scared the hell out of me. But I jumped, but that would have made for good TV if it had been rolling, because I had a reaction, and it's entertaining. So people have to understand that aspect of it. But they're really going out there. They're really investigating. I don't see that they've ever, faked evidence or something like that. They're just doing what they're doing. They use different tools. Some tools are kind of controversial, but I even look at other ghost hunters and other teams where I look at them and say, I don't really agree with their approach, but I respect them. And it's the kind of same thing with Ghost Adventures.
Well, you have to admit, they actually are bringing the other paranormal teams out in the highlight too, because each team, they bring their evidence, they let them talk on the TV and everything. So it's giving other paranormal investigators a chance to actually be out there and actually show their work too.
And get their names
known. And no other show really does that much, like Ghost Adventures does. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is always a good thing. And I mean, if we ever make it, which I'm not saying we will, I'm not saying we won't, regardless, we're going to keep on rolling along in this great paranormal field that we're in, regardless of the outcome. But there again, I really do hope to work with Zach and all of them one day from Ghost Adventures. And I definitely hope to work with Nick. I've actually been in contact with Amy Allen, actually. She actually agreed to come on our show. We just haven't got a date set. But Amy Allen, I love Amy Allen. I like Dead Files in general. One of our other fellow Beyond the Light Network members, podcasters, actually recently had Steve DeShavi on his show recently from the Dead Files. So, I mean,
that's cool.
I think there's a lot of paranormal investigators out here that look up to these guys that are on TV and doing the things they do. And there's a lot of people out there, but like you mentioned earlier, Jay, this profession we're in ain't for the weak of heart. It's not for everybody. No. Not everybody can hang in there. You may see us react over dumb shit and things like that. You may. Like mannequins, or like when they put the damn clown in Zach's car in the clown motel.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
And Zach,
I would have freaked out too.
Because he's terrified of clowns.
That's mean.
But there's a lot.
We were just out the clown.
Go ahead.
Hotel.
Yeah, we just visited the Clown Hotel on our way back from Virginia City Paracon, and we stopped in there, and
we'll be investigating.
Yeah, we'll be investigating. They wanted us to come out because they knew who we were, and they thought it was cool that we stopped in. So it was really cool being in there, seeing it all. I'm not scared of clowns. Nothing like my sister. I would love to take all of them and put all of them in my sister's bedroom and let her wake up like that. That would be awesome.
Oh, no. See, that would be one, if we ever did an investigation there, I would not be going on.
Yeah, I don't know if I could either.
Sherika and Lauren have a major fear of clowns, so they're
Nope.
What they said, there was 5,000 something.
There was like 5,000 clowns.
Yeah.
And each day somebody brings more clowns there.
One is too many. That many? Nope. I would have a heart attack and die right there.
It's pretty crazy.
Especially
It's
if
a weird
one of them
place.
moved.
I will tell you the big clown when we were over there and
The one that moved on the show.
Yeah,
the one
wasn't
that moved
Zach
on
in the
show,
room?
Yup.
Yeah.
I will honestly say when I was over there, I felt honestly like somebody
Ugh.
was so pissed off at me that I was standing right there and I'm looking them around. I'm like, I don't know who has the anger, but somebody has really bad anger in the room.
No, that clown, it does have a really spooky vibe to it. It does feel almost like it's got its own life somehow.
I don't know.
It's
a lot of
really
anger.
really weird. But there is definitely a vibe that's different from outside, and then when you walk into the office where all these things are at. But like you said, I mean, they bring a new clown every day from somewhere else practically. So God knows what kind of attachments are on these items that they're bringing in there.
You can imagine what people are doing to the clowns.
We actually brought in stuff ourselves. We get, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, good God, who knows?
And then that cemetery is awesome
It's
right now.
See, that looks
So
awesome.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of investigating like cemeteries and stuff, because I've just never found a ton of luck. Only a few times back in the day, but it like that one just is it's got a very.
I know a lot of people
very
do
weird
cemeteries,
vibe to
and
it,
I have
too.
no problem with them. It's just I guess my own self, I'd rather do historical buildings and other locations and stuff rather than cemeteries.
Well, these are like older cemeteries too. so
It's cool to
totally
walk
different.
through it, though. I will honestly say.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just awesome. How how they kept it going, though. It's very.
Yeah. Then they're doing like reenactments now, like every Halloween, where like the lady told us that like a kid will pick a person that like died in the cemetery, and for the day of Halloween, they will reenact that person's life, out of respect to the dead. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like this neat kind of educational, like how was life back then kind of thing. And then at the end of the night, they say how they died. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of like awkward. For me, it's kind of cool, but some people might look at it like it's kind of bizarre. But but it was a neat place. It was really fun. But all those places out there in Nevada, there's so many of those ghost towns. Man.
Little
It's
tiny
crazy.
towns that are so. They look like they're restoring them all. I mean, it's just they're so. I mean, it's history, and it's just nice to see people actually trying to restore history rather than tear down. We live in a state in Arizona where they tear down everything and build new.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
we go get called out for haunted locations, usually it's a brand new building, and we're like, well, probably yourself or it's the land, because then you just probably be the building. So but a lot of these other places, the history, it's amazing watching everybody restore everything. So it's really nice.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, and it's not only like we get to be paranormal investigators, we get to go investigate these locations and whatnot. There y'all go. They wanted me to say that. I have a thing of saying what and whatnot after everything, and they've been begging me to say it. So I just get in a conversation and I roll with it. So no, but another good thing about the work we do, and I hope in the future, I plan on finding locations that they're wanting to tear down, like they have a lot of history behind them, and maybe see about getting them to let us do paranormal tours in there and whatnot, and
Yep.
letting them, and basically to save the locations, to put the money in that we make and donate it back to save the locations that we investigate in, because there is a lot of history,
Yeah, that's
like y'all said.
kind of what they're doing out there. It's important. It's important to do that. That we were talking with
Daniel
Klaus, doing the Hinsdale house, and like how he I did an interview with him for a video vlog that we're doing, and he was talking about how he pretty much rescued the place, and like now all the money goes back into restoring the place, and it's cool because now he's adding like what is it, like he said, like 80 cameras or something crazy like to the building, or I don't
He's
know.
trying to make a location for investigators to come out there so teams can have a
don't
location.
have to set up a DVR.
Yeah.
They just plug in their thumb drive and pull all the information.
Yeah, there's a spot for it to have your, your base camp and everything. I mean, he's doing an amazing job out there at the Hinsdale. So if you guys ever can look into that, that's another location that's amazing. Daniel's doing an awesome job at it.
Yeah, actually, Actually, Mr. Chuck motherfucking Banks, as he told me to excuse my language, but he said Mr. Chuck motherfucking Banks is actually going to be going out to the Hinsdale house. I think in July they're headed out to the Hinsdale house. Chuck's a character. I'm pretty sure y'all might be familiar with him. He's also a fellow Beyond the Light. He's actually one of the founders of Beyond the Light network that we're on. But no, he's going to be going out to the Hinsdale house and investigating, doing a co-investigation with Daniel in July. So.
Oh, that's cool. No, that would be fun. I would love to check it out. I mean, we just talked with him about it. We hadn't made it out there, but that's probably going to be an amazing treat for you to do that.
Oh yeah, and well, Chuck's the founder. He corrected me on that. He is the founder. He corrected me in chat. But no.
Oh, okay.
But no, we're actually bringing Daniel on our show. I think at the beginning of July, Daniel will be coming on our show with us. We're also going to have Johnny Hauser from Viddy Space on there. On the show with us. So yeah, it should be pretty cool, and I'm sure y'all are familiar. Are y'all familiar with Wes Forsyth?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wes will be coming on in the show in June as well. Like, we're booked from now until pretty much the end of June with shows every Friday and Saturday night, besides the nights that we're having investigations on. We try not to book them during investigations because it makes it really hard to juggle both of them together. I mean, I'm good at multitasking, but
that's a little too much.
It is.
No, so out of, and I know you briefly mentioned this earlier, out of the locations that you've been, not residential-wise, but bigger locations that you've been to, what is your favorite location that you've investigated so far?
Probably the Sunkist factory in Mesa, Arizona. We got contacted about 3+ years ago at 1:00 in the morning by a very concerned new owner of the building, which was in ruin at the time. He was building an auto parts warehouse out of it and trying to restore it, but his workers were refusing to go down into the basement area because of shadow people and things were being moved around. And we've actually investigated that location probably 3 or 4 dozen times, hosted events out of it, done all kinds of stuff. Keep going back. Just a great location, extremely active. But here recently, we were down in Yuma at the Lyric Theater and the El Centro Hotel. That's actually going to be featured on season 2 Upon a Case Files on one of the episodes, and we definitely got more than what we bargained for going into the building. Just a great location. I keep calling it the Winchester Mansion of Arizona. When you walk down the corridors in the hotel, there's windows leading into the hallway, closets go into bedrooms and other rooms. There's secret passageways. The psychic said there was like a vortex in a particular area, and like some amazing things happened where we did make contact, literally. Marie did. She always seems to be the bait at the end of these ghost hunts, but
call me ghost bait.
We call her ghost bait just because we bait her a lot at locations, and things are very, very attracted to Marie. She definitely gets a lot of scratches. She gets a lot of like bruises and marks and stuff out there. I don't think so much that she's being attacked. Just that, like.
Well, I'm asking the spirits to, reach out to me. Touch me, I give you permission. So I don't think it's them harming me. We don't know because no one really does know what can a spirit do when it is trying to touch you. I mean, what it is could be a red mark. It could be a bruise. You don't really know what the, what's going to happen. Yeah, of it when a spirit touches you. So that's what I think it is. A lot of people are like, oh gosh, you touched a demon. Demon touched you. I'm like, no. I'm like, that ain't no demon. I was like, no. I will say that for my location is, I will honestly say the most location I love the most, and I would go back almost every weekend if I can, is Jerome. It's not one single location in Jerome. It's the whole town. It is, as soon as you walk up into Jerome and you get out of your car, you feel it. It's just, you can feel the spirits. You can feel everything just walking throughout the whole town. Almost every building probably there is haunted. And plus, it's just the atmosphere there is amazing.
The streets in itself.
I mean, it's beautiful. And plus, it's wine country, and I love it. So, hey, wine and spirits is wonderful.
Radio
show.
Yeah, so we did bring Mr. Tim on the air. He's another one of our
Hey,
fellow
Tim.
investigators.
Hey.
Now,
Hey.
Hello.
now, just so you know, Jay and Marie, Tim is known as Twerking Tim. 'Cause he has this thing. He has this thing that he decides he's going to do at every investigation where he's going to twerk for the live feeds.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny.
But we like to laugh. We like to laugh and have a good time. But at the same time, we do take this profession very seriously and do absolutely love doing what we do. But you can't do nothing without
Having a little fun.
having a good time. You got to lighten the atmosphere at times, especially in this field we're in.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem people have when investigating. I've seen so many teams out there investigating, and they got this whole tactical approach, and everything is like in sync, and they're moving like they're the fucking SWAT team through a building and stuff. And that's all great and good. If that works for you, that's fine. I find that acting natural in locations, having fun, laughing, different types of emotions like that tend to cause more activity to be stirred up. So even if Marie and I are trying to film something for a TV show, we don't try to take it serious. We used to back in the day. Everything was formatted. Everything was had to be exactly the same, and it had to be precise. But in the years and years we've been doing this, we just realized that why are we doing this if we're not having a little bit of fun? Whether we're called to do it or not, we still got to have fun with it. So, definitely professionalism.
Plus, everybody, we disagree so much. I mean, people realize, yeah, my husband and I work together and we live together. We have a lot of disagreements, especially in the paranormal. I mean, our own beliefs are a lot different. So, I mean, we used to think, we can't argue in front of people. But you know what? It's, we disagree and we're going to let everybody know about it. So it's fun
it
and
makes
all
for
good.
interesting panel conversation.
Everybody loves hearing us disagree, so it's funny.
We actually, in fact, when we were filming out in Canada.
Because I'm always right, you're always wrong.
Shut up. So we were filming out in Canada for season 2 of Haunted Case Files, and Marie, I had said something that I felt was happening at a location in my particular opinion, and Marie did not agree with me. And we were on camera, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, you don't agree with me? Like, what do you mean you don't agree with me? Like, this is what was going on. She's like, I don't think it was that, it was this. And I'm like, well, you don't agree with me?
Nope.
So it was really weird. And the director was freaking out because he's like, I cannot believe you just didn't agree with him. But, I mean, and that's the thing. When we film for these shows, try to be as honest as we possibly can and just tell you how it is, how we feel it is, what it is, and whether we're right or wrong. I mean, we do the best that we can, but we definitely do not agree on everything, Marie and I.
I'm not going to break my integrity. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, I'm going to be honest as much as I can to myself. Now, is it the truth to other people? I don't know and don't care. It's my truth. I'm not going to ever break my integrity.
And that's always a big issue with television and integrity issues and stuff like that. But once again, that falls back into people understanding television. Television, what I say on a show is what I believe happens.
Yeah, listen to our words.
Listen to our words, not what you see on the screen. If it's a reenactment, then I'm not saying
not
what's happening. We had one where it was I was talking about us running after a spirit and trying to give chase to it. And on the show, when it aired, we're running out of the schoolhouse. And I'm like, what the hell? We didn't run out of there. We were running towards it, but it's whatever, I mean, it's
entertainment. You got to get used to it.
I guess they didn't think it'd be as scary if it was us chasing.
Well, just like they thought they did the filming of, there was a spirit that I seen. And this is the one time we did do a cemetery, and I seen something like dark spirit right in front of me, and I actually was trying to go for it more. I was trying to contact it. They wanted me to act like I was petrified, and I ran from it, and I'm like, huh? I wasn't scared. So how they portray everything. It's entertainment.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's always good because you got to keep people entertained at the same time. I mean, you got to have a way to lighten the atmosphere and keep people entertained. Because if you can't keep people entertained, then then nobody's going to pay attention to what you're doing. Nobody's going to care about what's going on. You got to keep them interested. So in those in those dead times, no pun intended, but in those dead times, you got to kind of keep the atmosphere light and make people laugh, keep them interested in watching the live feed. Now,
that's why it works.
Tim's all, that's why it's work.
And sometimes the spirits will react to it too.
Yeah,
and I believe it, man. I mean, and it's stuff like that. Like for the longest time, Marie and I and our team were really focused on creating and manifesting energies, or seeing if we couldn't intensify an experience. So we were doing a lot of experiments. You'll see this on the next season of Haunted Case, but like we were doing things to enhance our sensitivities, whether that be happiness, sadness, or fear. In this particular thing, we did an experiment. We call it fear sensory overload, where we were using lights, noises, different sounds and tones, and just whatnot to kind of throw ourselves off. And some crazy things happened. So it's definitely all those energies, man. It's definitely stuff that happens. I mean, Scott Grunwald is a good friend of mine. He's if you ever seen his presentations, he's crazy. Like he's the nuttiest guy you'll ever meet. I love the man. He's like my brother. I talk to him like almost daily by text and whatnot. He uses he uses like that emotion, that funniness, that humor, and it helps them on cases. It helps them, and it makes the investigation more fun,
Yeah, definitely. And I've actually talked to Scott on several occasions. He's been on our show as well. I love Scott. He's definitely a character for sure. Actually,
he's absolutely crazy.
I think either. Let me see here. Let me see the schedule. He's actually coming on our show May 18th. So he'll be coming on our show this coming Friday night. He'll be back on our show. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So last time, I got to tell you all this story. Last time he came on our show, he was at the Queen Mary. Mind you, the Parahors got banned from the Queen Mary a while back, and he video chatted me when he first got to the Queen Mary, and there's a sign out in front of the Queen Mary that says no Parahors allowed. And and he's all, I'm trying not. He said, I'm surprised they haven't seen me yet. He's all, I've been out here walking around and shit. So Scott was at the Queen Mary, and I don't remember the guy he put on. He put some guy on the air with us, one of his buddies that was a book writer. And he had two chicks. He had two chicks in the hotel room with him at the Queen Mary, and they were distracting him. He was a little off guard that night, but he was like, he had all of us rolling, just the things he was saying.
Funny.
And then you hear one of the chicks in the background go, "Get off the phone and fuck us both," and we just started dying laughing.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he is crazy. Yeah. Like I looked at some of his pictures on there, and to all the listeners out there, y'all got to look up Scott Grunwald on Facebook. He's a character, but I love him to death.
Yeah, he's funny as hell.
His single live videos that he does, really quick, like one time he was doing like donuts in a parking lot, and he just kept doing them. All of a sudden, you heard cop car coming. He's like, "Oh shit, gotta go!" And he's doing this live the whole entire time, and I'm like, "Okay." But
when you meet Scott in person and you're hanging out with it, he is what it is. I hadn't seen him for a long time. I seen him out in Salem, and he's good people, man. Like, I mean, like he holds on to his friends dearly. He's definitely passionate about this field. He's got a lot to offer. A lot. I mean, I've learned a lot actually investigating with him. There's just some different techniques he uses, and they're so primitive and they're so old school, but they work. And it's like, wow, like why wasn't I doing this before? But yeah, just a good dude. He is crazy as hell.
Him and Jesus together.
Yeah, those two are funny.
Yeah, he's definitely a character. I can't wait to have him back on the show. Most definitely.
Ask him to do a psychic reading when he's on there, because he did when we had a radio program. He did a psychic reading on our radio program that we had years ago, and it's hilarious. But just ask him to do it. It's hilarious. You guys won't stop laughing the entire time. Just tell him Jay said do a psychic reading. Jay Yates said do a psychic reading, and he'll know exactly.
So, what is y'all's favorite
It's
piece of
gonna be-
equipment to use?
I don't think he heard you.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
So, what is your favorite piece of equipment to use?
My favorite piece of equipment, I honestly would have to be like probably a video recorder or an audio recorder. I'm not a huge fan of anything outside of video, audio, or photography. The lights and the sounds and stuff, they're really cool when things are really slow on an investigation. They're good to kind of gauge what's kind of going on.
They're good for TV.
They're good for TV. They're good for events. They're good for people who are just starting out, I think. I tend to kind of go back old school, using bells and using different types of lights and positioning and using yes and no boards and setting up different kinds of ghost traps, I guess you could call it, to try to engage with the spirit realm. But like one specific piece, I can't say I really have a piece of equipment that I'm like, oh wow, this is my go-to, because I don't use that much anymore.
And we use them. We do use them all.
Yeah.
Our team sets it all out. Don't get me wrong. It's always
we got amazing equipment. I mean, actually, you know what? I think it's really cool though. A piece of equipment. Our buddy Scott on our team recently, he got the it's not the official SLS camera, but it's the one with the stick figure thing. I find that really fascinating. Before we went to Salem, he came over before our ride came here for the airport. He turned it on. He's like, hey, Jay, take this around the house, and kind of see how to use it before we go to Salem. I turned it on, and within 2 seconds, there was a stick figure standing at my staircase, leaned over on the rail, propped up with his legs and stuff on the step, waving at me on the SLS camera. And I'm like, what the hell? This is insane. And then we went up to my bedroom, which is the most active as far as spirit energy in our house. And there was literally like 2 stick figures kind of going at it on my bed. I don't know what the hell that's all about. But
Oh, wow.
The positioning,
That's funny.
everything happened. And we got it on the video.
That's
After
cool.
that situation happened, it looked like the one came off the side of the bed and was stabbing the other one.
It was just
Wow.
blowing my mind.
It was insane. I don't know why that happened in my house, but I found that kind of fascinating because it's mapping out motion and whatnot. So for me, that's kind of like, wow, we're kind of onto something with this particular piece of equipment. I'd say it's the most exciting piece of equipment that we have right now that makes me kind of excited, like, well, where technology is
I
going.
will say the REM pod, when we were at Virginia City,
Yeah.
we were investigating with Devin and Ellen out there, and I want to say the techniques they used with that was pretty interesting. I never would even thought about doing certain things that they were doing with it. So, that was pretty interesting. And I'm not a equipment person at all. Give me a room by myself with audio, and I'll be okay. I don't even need a camera or video. I just like audio, to be honest with you.
The thing that they were doing with the REM pod that made it so interesting is because, some people say they have REM pods, they never go off. They never had any good results with them. What they were doing is they were setting up the REM pods, and they were touching the top of the antenna, and they were calling upon the spirits and asking them to join them in touching the top of this, this antenna. And they said, at 3, I'm going to remove my hand, but keep your hand on it. and then they would do that. They move their hand, and these things were holding on, and they were different lights were coming on according to what they were saying. So it was definitely something that kind of raised my eyebrow. But yeah, that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's something I haven't seen done before.
And that's the one thing that's pretty interesting. We've been very lucky since we did do Haunted Case Files 2, the filming of it. We've been invited out to a lot of different Paracons as speaking guests and everything. And we get to go out and meet all these other paranormal investigators. Plus, people are just coming out. They're just investigators. I mean, we learn so much from each. I mean, so many of them. I will honestly say I'm not an expert. I can learn something each day as a paranormal investigator. I will say I'm professional when I'm out there, but I'm not an expert. And I can learn. And I will say I learned from so many of them.
Yeah.
There's a person that came out to one of our events, never been on a ghost hunt ever in their life. And they actually taught me something. Because I never thought about something that they mentioned. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. So it's like, I always say that. I mean, you can learn from everybody. And that's the reason I say going out to ghost hunts, going to other people's events, going to some of these cons, all that kind of stuff is a really good experience for everybody.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's always fun to use new pieces of equipment and see what I'm always interested in seeing what everybody else uses. Now, I do have a question. Have you ever experimented with the Jacob's ladder?
No, we have not.
What was that?
The Jacob's ladder.
Oh, no.
No. Never have. Have you guys? Did you guys have any good results with it?
We haven't tried it yet, but I do plan on trying that in the future. That's always been one of the pieces of equipment that I've kind of had a lot of interest in. Just because the general concept of it, I know they are a bit dangerous to build and whatnot. But in that aspect, but I think I can't remember. I think Ghost Adventures is at Vista Hospital whenever they used the Jacob's ladder, and it was going back and forth. The flame was going back and forth in between there. But I haven't got to experiment with the one yet. But I definitely look forward to doing so in the future. Now, we do have the Paranormal Puck 2 that we use, which seems to get some pretty interesting results and some pretty valid responses. The Obulus, I'm still kind of skeptical of, but we have got a few valid responses from it as well. We use the Obulus 5. But in that case, I would say my voice recorder is probably one of my favorite pieces of equipment, as well as myself.
Yeah, audio, I've gone different routes and stuff in the field and use different techniques and different tools, and I always fall back to that audio and that video. There's nothing like getting that Class A EVP where you knew something was there, and then you go back and you listen, and what you thought was right. But Obulus, the Obulus, it's a great tool to use again when things are kind of died down. The Obulus in itself, I use it a little bit differently. Like I'll say, if I'm really communicating with such and such, can you say the word black? And it kind of cuts down on some of the inconsistencies with the device itself. But I've had some crazy experiences. The first time I ever turned on the Obulus, I was working with Reverend Paul Lovegrove, who actually just passed away this year. Great dude. He was a reverend. He just did a great stuff for us on the team and helped a lot of people. And he never really was in the limelight of what stuff he was doing. But him and I, we turned it on, and we're both kind of messing with it at the same time. And it says both Jay and Paul died. And it was kind of ironic because both Paul and I had a near-death experience. So it was kind of like, why did it say both of our names? And why did it say that? So yeah. I mean, there's definitely something to them. You just, it's just the accuracy.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and I've even used some of the apps on the phone, and they actually work. I've got valid responses from a few of those as well. One of the ones that I get a lot of good responses, valid responses from, is the Ghost Radar. I don't know if you're familiar with it or you heard of it, but they're coming out with more and more apps, even on your phone now, that that seemed to work very well. Now there is a couple that a lot of people are skeptical of, like the portal. The portal, I know
Yeah.
he's come under a lot of fire, but we've actually used the portal. I bought the actual computer version, or Lauren paid for the actual computer version of the portal. And we were at a private residence case, and we were experimenting with it, just messing around with it. And we asked, "Where are you at?" And it goes in a train station where there's not a lot of light, plain as day, like in direct response to what we asked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we asked where it's at, and it's all in an old train station where where I carry a lot of light. That's what he said. He said,
Oh,
in an old
wow.
train station where I carry a lot of light. It was plain as day. I was like, did it really just say that on cue? And it really blew me away, because I know a lot of people disagree with the portal, and they don't think it's a very valid tool for investigating. And I know the maker of the portal, Steve Huff, has come under a lot of fire, especially recently.
Right.
But I've actually had quite a bit of valid responses. We've had quite a bit of valid responses come through the portal when we used it as well. Of course, we have the SB7 as well as the SB11. I've gotten some phenomenal responses from both of those. We have gotten phenomenal. Some of our best responses have come from the spirit boxes in general. There is a few other ones that I'm interested in investing in the future, like the GeoBox. I hear a lot about the GeoBox from a lot of people that use it, say they get a lot of good responses. But I'm always up to try out new equipment and see how well it works for us, because it may not work well for others. But there again, like I said, that portal app that we use on the laptop or on the computer, we got some damn good responses off of that.
Yeah.
I asked a question and got a direct answer, because that's invaluable. It's like as soon as I asked the question and got a direct response.
It was so clear.
Crystal clear, yeah.
And I think it depends on what location you're at too, as to which equipment's gonna work the best for that location.
Right.
Yeah.
So out of the location, somebody asked us this in chat earlier as well. What is your most your funniest moment or your most memorable moment that you've had from an investigation?
The most memorable moment that I've had on an investigation. God, I've had so many. I think the most memorable experience I ever had on an investigation was when Marie and I investigated her mother's house. I'd been there, hundreds of times, and I thought nothing was going on. Her grandmother had passed away, and her mother felt as if her mother was kind of haunting her in the home and kind of wanted some answers. And Maria, being her grandmother and her mom, obviously she wanted to help them out. And when I went there, I was very pissed off that I was there. I'm like, I've been here, a million times. There's nothing here. Why are we here? And immediately we started getting, responses. It just goes to show you, going into a location, you never know. You never know. Even if you've been there 100 times, you finally go out there to investigate, it might be a completely different experience. I personally was the first time I had on an investigation experienced full levitation. I was in a closet that was a center of activity, and I was starting a cleansing prayer of the home, because I just wanted to get it done, over with, and leave. The clothes in the closet started moving. Two purses ended up standing up from a hook on the wall, straight out in front of me. I freaking panicked. To be honest with you, I'm screaming, get me. I just couldn't believe what was happening. And, the closet door at the time was jammed. I couldn't get it all the way open. I'm screaming. We caught it all on audio, me screaming, and the video outside the door of them trying to open up the door. But as soon as that door opened up, I was like, we're done, we're gone, we're leaving. There's no way in hell that I'm staying here. We're coming back. I'm not prepared. Marie, I've worked with a lot of investigators. I've seen a lot of people, and Marie is she's a freaking warrior when it comes to this kind of stuff. And whether it's her own family or other families that she's working with, Marie says, no, I'm going back in there. We are blessing this house, and this is what's going to happen. And she did. And I remember I started the prayer again, and Marie screams out of nowhere. She says, something's in my head. And Marie falls to the ground, and again, having issues with the door and the closet. I did 10 years law enforcement. My whole team was law enforcement at the time, paramedics, firefighters, or military, because credibility was extremely important to me when I started cops crew. So everybody was well trained, but Marie was non-responsive. We dragged her out into the living room, to which her face was completely purple. She was not breathing, and there was really no pulse that I could find. I was terrified. I was freaking out. I'm screaming at my camera guy, what the hell are you doing? And he says, well, you told me to keep rolling no matter what. And I'm like, he's like, this is no matter what, and I'm like, put the camera down. We got to do something. And actually, he was the one that picked my wife up and moved her across the threshold of the door of her parents' home. And as soon as she, and that was more or less because of me panicking like a lunatic. And once she passed that threshold, like she just took this huge, breath, and the color started immediately coming back to her face. She propped herself up against a windowsill, and I'm like, babe, do you even have any idea what happened to you? And she's just like, yes. And I'm like, well, we got to get you to the hospital. You got to go to the hospital. We can't go back in there. Do you know what just happened? And I didn't know what kind of experience she was having on a whole other level while she was out. But she says, no, I'm going back in. And I'm like, well, you're crazy. This is insane. Like, you're going to die. And, she went in, and she got pretty tore up. Whatever it was, got her pretty good. Some nice bloody scratches on the back of her neck. But she went in there, man, and she did it. And, the house was cleared, and, there was no problems after that. But it definitely was probably the most memorable because I thought my wife had died because of the spirit realm. So definitely something that I will never forget. And I remember just like it was yesterday, but you just don't forget things like that. And, it's a big reminder to all of us that are in the field and investigating that, we really don't know what we're poking at sometimes. And sometimes that shit pokes back. And when it does, crazy things can happen. This is one of those instances. She never had any problems with any of that kind of stuff before, so I had no idea. Like, this is like, only thing I could point to was it was something supernatural. Yeah, definitely the most memorable. I think probably Marie would say that's probably her most memorable as well because it was very significant to her grandmother.
Yeah, that was probably the one that always sticks out. It was on Haunted Case Files season 1. So it was the most emotional one I've ever been on, to be honest with you, even, after so many years after. I think my grandmother's been passed now for, I believe my mom would probably correct me. I don't ever keep up with that stuff. I think it's like 8 years or something now, so it's been a while. But when everybody told me I passed out and was turning purple, that is nothing I experienced. I did experience, my grandmother probably passed away, I think it was like 6 weeks to maybe 8 weeks before this happened. And the way my grandmother passed away is my grandma had dementia. And in the middle of the night, she got up and she tripped and hit her head on her big screen TV thing that she had. It's one of those wooden TV screens, or those floor model ones that were all old looking things. Yeah, she hit her head on it, and she never came back after that. And I actually, when I do remember saying something's in my head, and it felt like something was going in my head and lifted me up. And all I remember is I was like flying, and I couldn't see my body or anything. All I know is my eyes were flying, and I'm watching my grandmother sitting in her chair, and this horrible voice is taunting my grandmother.
Go ahead. Are you still there, Marie and Jay?
I heard something right before
I did too.
It sounded like a little voice. And then, nope, it's over. Right when I heard that voice, that's when she cut off. Damn.
What in the world? They can still hear us, but we lost Marie and Jay. Hold on. Yeah, the call ended. It's reconnecting.
Oh wow. Yeah. Right. Right. I heard her voice, and then all of a sudden, bam, she just cut off.
Something wrong with the internet. Yeah, I don't know, guys. We dropped signal. Can you hear us okay? Can y'all hear us? See if I can get Marie and Jay back. We lost everybody. Like right before that happened, we heard a
Isn't Tim
voice.
on there with
Voice come
us?
through.
Are you bringing him back on?
Yeah.
And performing the Blessing and Marie along with Marie of the home. My babysitter reported, and she had no idea what we were even doing. Was the sound of our bird cage in our bedroom being slammed against the wall in our house.